Frickin' thumbnail I'm using for this video. Oh, this is Mr. Hornby 83. This is the Mr. Hornby 83 show. And today I am going to be talking about all the old cartoon blocks that came out in the 80s and 90s. I'm going to be talking about USA's Express Train. I'm going to talk about Fox Kids. I'm going to be talking about 64. Both versions of 64's cartoon block. I'll also talk about Fox's. I'll talk about, the Disney Afternoon block, CBS, ABC, talking about the cartoon blocks they had, and what cartoons they had on some of those cartoon blocks, and, yeah, the other things. But, before we get into the video, I was a little disappointed with the lack of freaking engagement with the GTA Vice City live stream last week. Friday. So, I'll tell you what. If I get a lot of engagement in this video tonight, well, today, tonight, whatever. If there's a lot of engagement in this video and I get a couple more new subscribers and a few likes, then I will sing the unedited version of Hypnotize, because there's a version of Hypnotize I don't think a lot of people even know about. Like if you play the CD backwards, it has a message to it, and if you guys want to hear me sing what that message is, I'll freaking, you guys gotta engage, leave comments, leave likes, and subscribe. So, anyway, yeah, it's good. It's gonna be a crazy song. I mean, seriously, you're gonna be shocked. That message in this song. It's not like they used to say about the freaking old heavy metal songs where you're playing backwards, there's a subliminal devil message or whatever. It's actually going to be something different than that. So, with all that being said, first thing I want to do, I want to, give lots of prayers out to my barber, Ira. He's been sick for the past few weeks. And, he's been my barber since I was like 16 years old. Before that, it was James Taylor from Taylor's in Newport. And if you're from Newport or Northern Kentucky, period, you know who James Taylor is in Taylor's beauty parlor before he moved. I think he tried to move out here to Florence. Hello. So far, one engagement. And, ever since I've had Ira as my barber, he's the only guy I trust with this freaking mop here. Shall. Yeah. He's the only guy I trust with this mop here to cut. So, I hope he gets better. I know he's in his 80s. I know he's been sick a lot, but I hope he gets better. But let's start out with the USA Express Train cartoons, because back in the 80s they put out, a lot of channels had cartoons in the 80s, like cartoon blocks, but I think USA was kind of one of the first few that did it. And even though, oh, you live near Florida? Cool. That's awesome. But, instead of playing newer cartoons, though, they always played the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons on the, which was fine. I enjoyed watching that because, that's how I watched Smurfs and all that. This was before Cartoon Network existed. This was before Boomerang existed. This was before what? Now it's MeTV. Cartoons now. This was before all that stuff existed. You could only find like the Smurfs and all that. I don't know. I don't live near Florida. Heck, Florida's like, I think a 13-hour drive from where I live. So, yeah. Yeah. I will tell you what, though, if my brother-in-law still lived in Georgia, he'd say he's an hour out from Florida. Yeah, he lives in Cincinnati now. But, yeah. Yeah, it's like a 13-hour drive from where I live. So, yeah. But yeah, you can see Smurfs and, Scooby-Doo reruns and Flintstones and all that stuff on USA. And as the years went on, bigger and better blocks came out. Like, Fox's block, which was like the best block in the 90s of cartoons. Took them a while to find their way, but it was like their best block of cartoons ever in the 90s. And then after they kind of stopped doing so many great cartoons, then you had 64, which I'll talk about those in a little bit. But, yeah, USA went on, I believe the USA Express went on till like, the mid-90s? And then that's where they put out cartoons like Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, which I thought was an underrated cartoon. I thought it was pretty good. I did not hate it. Yeah, did it suck that the violence was, not what it was in the games? Yeah, but you know what? It was still a good cartoon. And then you had the Street Fighter cartoon, Savage Dragon, and a couple other cartoons that were on that freaking channel. So, I don't know. But I like the Mortal Kombat cartoon. My problem I think I had with it is, instead of doing like a tournament style, which I think, if they made a Mortal Kombat cartoon today, they'd either have to do it in an anime style, or they would have to frickin', do the tournament and all that stuff the way, the way they did it in the games. But, and the Street Fighter cartoon, had 2 seasons? So, yeah. But, yeah, you know what? I will say that, I like Street Fighter, and, I can even find those. I can find them on Amazon here and there, but, I'm not paying to frickin' watch a cartoon I watched years ago on USA for free. That's just ridiculous. Why doesn't Peacock have the rights to those frickin' cartoons anyway? Because they were made by frickin' Universal. They were put, heck, HBO could freaking give us a Mortal Kombat cartoon. And I think, if they did a Mortal Kombat cartoon, they'd have to do it in the style of the Spawn cartoon from 97 to, 2001, 2002? So, yeah, I would have liked to seen them do a proper Mortal Kombat cartoon instead of them all being teamed up like they were G.I. Joes or something. I thought that was kind of lame. That, the Mortal Kombat characters were teamed up like they were G.I. Joe or something. But, outside of that, I still like the cartoon. Or do it the way you did it in the movies. That would have worked too. Now let's move to CBS's Channel 12, I think was CBS, yeah. ABC. CBS? I don't know. Is CBS Channel 8 in that? Or is... I don't know. ABC, one of them. We're going to move to the block that had the Ninja Turtles cartoon, which that show, boy, I just reviewed that show last year, and that show had 10 seasons, and you know what? Probably the longest cartoon to ever frickin' be out, because I don't think they're, maybe SpongeBob nowadays, but even I think they've stopped making new episodes of that now. But 10 freaking seasons of Ninja Turtles? Which was crazy because you had cartoons like G.I. Joe and freaking He-Man that was doing pretty much the same stuff as freaking Turtles. And I don't know, something about Ninja Turtles people just loved. It went all the way till 96. Then a year later we seen the end of X-Men. But, I'll talk about that when I get to the Fox block and all that stuff. Yeah, it might have been CBS. The Ninja Turtles. Yeah, or it could have been ABC, one of them. But, it was Channel 12 or Channel 8, or Channel 3 when it first, Channel 12 or Channel 3 when it first came out. Then it became Channel 12, and Channel 8 was like some other channel, so, whichever one Channel 8 and Channel 12 were, that had Ninja Turtle. And if I'm not mistaken, I think like one of those channels had frickin' Wildcats and that on it, and Double Dragon and all that stuff. So yeah, I like the Double Dragon cartoon. I can't believe it got canceled 2 frickin' seasons. I know Street Sharks was also on one of those channels, and I thought Street Sharks was pretty good. It's funny because Mattel's got the rights now to the Ninja Turtle figures. I wonder if we get a Street Sharks Ninja Turtles crossover. I mean, makes sense. Street Sharks was pretty much a ripoff of Ninja Turtles. Although they did a few things differently than what Turtles did. But, it was still a freaking ripoff of Ninja Turtles. So, Street Sharks and Ninja Turtle crossover once Mattel starts making the Ninja Turtle figures, because that would be an epic freaking crossover. But I don't know, because I think the Street Shark figures are pretty big. The Turtle figures, I don't know what they're planning on making the scale of the Ninja Turtle figures, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, Ninja Turtles dominated ABC or CBS block up until freaking all the way up until like Power Rangers and that came out. But then they still had a few more seasons, because they had season 8, 9, and 10. Well, 7, 8, 9. No, season 8, 9, and 10, which they tried to go darker because cartoons like X-Men were out, Batman, Spider-Man, the animated series, the best animated version of Spider-Man. Yes, I watched the old cartoon. It was good. It wasn't as good as TAS. I liked Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Again, wasn't as good as TAS, but they were still pretty good. Like, in fact, what Hasbro just revealed, they're going to be having a 3-pack based in that cartoon. So yeah, that's going to be cool to see. It's Comic-Con exclusive, but yeah. So let's talk about 64 in the early 90s and that, because, or like in the 80s and the early 90s, because, you know, at the time when 64 was pretty much the anime channel, the anime block before Toonami was created, because, you know, it had a bunch of anime on it. It had Ronin Warriors, but it also had stuff like Minimax and freaking bunch of other freaking cartoons on there. I think Conan the cartoon was on there. Not mistaken, I think the Mortal Kombat, or not Mortal Kombat, freaking, what was that freaking, I think the RoboCop, yeah, I think the RoboCop cartoon may have been on there. And they had a lot of cartoons on there. But I will say, though, X-Men, when they came out, people were trying to capture that popularity, and then we had Wildcats come out. And Wildcats, I honestly thought that was a good show. I wish they would get, and like, you've seen me on numerous toy hunts where I've talked about how when Wildcats came out, or when you see me on toy hunts and I've seen the Grifter, I'm like, man, I'd buy the Grifter, but I don't know if they'd make the other freaking Wildcats, like the leader and the claw guy and all that stuff. But I don't know. I would love to see them make, and McFarlane, I guess, got to race him, so I think McFarlane should make the other Wildcats. I remember I had the Wildcat toys as a kid. I liked the Wildcat toys. Also, I believe Cops also showed up on one of these blocks, the cartoon Cops, not the reality cop show where you see the freaking cops riding around in a police car telling, but like Cops the cartoon. So yeah, I think that showed up in one of these blocks too. Might have been the ABC CBS one. But yeah, I think overall, I think Wildcats was a good cartoon. Alright, so now let's go over to the Disney Afternoon block, which was pretty good because you had DuckTales, you had, I believe, Tailspin, and of course, my favorite of the three, Darkwing Duck, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and all that stuff. And you know, I never watched the Nickelodeon cartoon block, but I think that didn't come out till like, what, the later 90s? But I remember enjoying, no, wait a minute. Oh yeah, all those cartoons were on 64, and they were on Disney Afternoon during the weekdays. But then, like, they would be on 64, and then you'd see them again on the Disney weekday block. So, yeah. Which is kind of what Fox did when they frickin' started showing, like, their cartoons. Like, when they started showing Power Rangers, and X-Men, and Batman, and, you know, all the other Marvel shows. But I think some of the Marvel shows were on 64, because I remember I first seen some of the Marvel cartoons on 64, like Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, which I think is a good cartoon. Those are two good cartoons. Fantastic Four. I believe Silver Surfer, but Silver Surfer I think started on Fox and then they transitioned it over to freaking 64. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. Early day of Fox cartoon block, which I'm about to get to Fox here in a minute, but let's get to 64. Because eventually 64 ended up turning to Kids WB. And they played like stuff like Sailor Moon, Ronin Warriors, but those were already, I think, on 64 before that. And you know, they had like the DC, because they switched Batman over to there. They did the New Adventures of Batman and that on that one. They did the Superman cartoon, which is a very good cartoon. Especially the ending. I love the ending of the Superman cartoon. That cartoon was a really good cartoon. And I wish they would have had more, would have continued that cartoon. But, you know, pretty much the final battle was him and Darkseid, because Darkseid, like, brainwashed him to become evil. Then he goes and just obliterates Darkseid and all that stuff, so... yeah, also, Batman Beyond also started on 64. Which, Batman Beyond, like I said, at first I didn't like Batman Beyond, but when Batman Beyond, when I started sitting down and actually watching it, I'm like, oh, this is a pretty good cartoon. Can't believe I didn't like this cartoon at first, because it was a really good cartoon. Then, like, you started getting, like, stuff like X-Men Evolution, you got Pokemon, the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and a lot of other ones. Like I said, when 64 first started, they were kind of the anime block for anime before we got Cartoon Network at Toonami. Sailor Moon, I remember when Sailor Moon and that started on there, and Ronin Warriors, I think it's called something else now. But, you know, like on Tubi, they got it listed as the original name of the show. But then they also said, yeah, Ronin Warriors, because that's how people know that freaking cartoon is through the Ronin Warriors. And I gotta say, I liked X-Men Evolution. I thought it was pretty good. But I still don't get why people think it was better than the show that's on Fox. And like I said, I'll get to Fox in a minute. But I want to talk about TBS's block, because they also had some cartoons. They had like Captain Planet, which one of my favorite cartoons, and one of my favorite villains was Captain Pollution. I had all the Captain Planet figures. I believe TBS also showed the Japanese version of the X-Men animated series cartoon. Which I don't think there's much difference between that and the frickin' between that and the regular animated series. I also had a few other cartoons and a few anime on there too as well. Like, I think like Voltron and that might have been on there, and I think they aired He-Man and stuff on that network there for a bit. And that's how I watched He-Man was, well, I saw the Filmation tapes, but also I seen it on frickin' TBS and all that stuff. Cause like, you know, and then usually after that be over, wrestling would start. So yeah, like, remember when wrestling had a slot almost all day long? Whether it was WWF or NWA/WCW, they'd have a slot. Sorry about that. They had a slot all day long on that on those TV stations. Like, WWF had a lot of TV shows on USA and that. WCW had all theirs on the Warner networks, or the Turner networks. And all kinds of stuff. Alright, now let's get to the main reason why I wanted to do this video, and that's to talk about the greatest cartoon block in cartoon block history, and that was the Fox Kids cartoon block. It eventually turned into frickin' 4Kids, it eventually turned into something else before they stopped doing cartoon blocks, but it was a great block. Now, it didn't start out great. They had a lot of cartoons that came out that a lot of people really didn't care about. I mean, you know, First off, one cartoon that comes to mind to me is James Bond Jr. A lot of people hated that freaking cartoon. It only lasted for like what, less than a season. Then they had stuff like Dark Water. But they did have some hits at that time too, because they had like, you know, Bobby's World, which was a good cartoon. They had like Eek the Cat, which I thought was funny. I don't know what other people think about Eek. I think a lot of people didn't like Eek because they felt like he was kind of a ripoff of Garfield, which I guess I could see that. But you know, yeah, Eek the Cat. They did Phantom 2040, which was a good show. I can't believe that show got canceled. I mean, that show was a really good cartoon. Why they canceled it is beyond me. I think because at the time a lot of people didn't get it, and you know, even when I was like at the age when I was young, I still thought it was a pretty good cartoon. Another cartoon that we had before we started getting big stuff like, you know, X-Men, Batman, Power Rangers, Spider-Man, and all that stuff. But another freaking thing we got was Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. Hey, I like that cartoon. That cartoon was good. You know what? When I seen the end of that last Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movie, I thought, well, we're going to do Sherlock Holmes 2020, 21st century one, in the 22nd century, and we never got it. Instead, he went back to playing Iron Man. But now he's coming back to Marvel to play Doom and Doomsday. So why not give us Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century? I want that cartoon back. I mean, that cartoon was good. And I can't believe they freaking canceled it. You know, I liked it. Yeah, it was a cool new take on Sherlock Holmes. They also had a Carmen Sandiego cartoon, which, you know, at the time the real show was airing anyway, so it's like, well, what the heck? You know, you got this. But yeah, gotta get back Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. Come on now. Alright, so let's talk about all the popular cartoons now. Let's start out with, of course, my opinion, the greatest cartoon ever. And then second to that would be Batman the Animated Series. But the greatest cartoon ever, X-Men the Animated Series. This cartoon was amazing. It was like one of those mind-blowing. And you know what? At first I didn't even watch it. Then I think I watched a little bit of the end of season 1, and then in season 2 is when I really got into the cartoon. But man, this cartoon was amazing. I mean, the storytelling, the action, the violence, all the good things going on with this cartoon. I mean, heck, the freaking theme songs they had for certain characters, like Mr. Sinister had his own theme song, Cable had his own theme song, Bishop had his own theme song, Wolverine, all of them, and I'm sad we haven't seen any of that in X-Men 97 with these characters that had their own song. Even Apocalypse had his own freaking theme song, which Apocalypse is the main villain in X-Men 97 season 2. So, you know, I just love X-Men the Animated Series. Now, yes, did it kind of get a little bad toward the end, and I'm sure people were getting fatigued of it. But you know what? Still freaking love that cartoon. Even the weaker episodes I like, except for the Mojo episodes. Oh, God. Mojo, can't stand the 2 Mojo episodes on there. I'm not a big fan of the Mojo stuff. You know, lasted 5 seasons. Had their ending with the graduation ending. And, you know, we also got a lot of closures for storylines. There were still some storylines that were still open, though, because we did see in season 5, we did see the return of Apocalypse when he took over Fabian Cortez. We never got a resolution to Sinister and, you know, that episode about Sinister and frickin' Xavier's ancestor, which was called Descent. We never got like a lot of resolve for a lot of different things in the cartoon. There's a few things that were still left open that didn't get taken care of, like Juggernaut's story, all that stuff. But you know what? Hey, They're still good. Now let's get into what ended up crushing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I mean, and when that show came out, it was just amazing. Everybody was had Turtles fever. But then when Power Rangers came out, everybody's like, no, Turtles fever, screw that. And you know, and you could tell how popular Power Rangers was because then over on other channels like 64 and that, you had like the frickin' VR Troopers, you had the Samurai Vulture Warriors or whatever they were. The one with, I think, I think Joe Lawrence's brother or something. That show. And also, even on Fox themselves, they had Big Bad Beetleborgs because of Power Rangers' popularity. And I gotta say, I kind of tuned out when we got the Turbo, because when we saw the Turbo movie, because I like Zeo, but I didn't watch all of Zeo, so I didn't really pay attention too much. But I was starting to get older, because like Power Rangers came out when I was like 10 years old. So like, yeah, I liked the first 2 seasons. Season 3 was pretty good, okay. Zeo was a pretty good season, but I just didn't pay much attention to it. And Turbo, oh god, Turbo was garbo. I mean, honestly. Oh, cool. But yeah, Turbo was just, I don't know, Turbo sucked. Thankfully, we got In Space after that, but then we got some other Power Ranger shows. Because right after In Space and freaking Lost Galaxy, we got Lightspeed Rescue. Lightspeed Rescue sucked as well. Now, the show that came after that, Time Force, I really enjoyed Time Force. It was a good show. But, I don't know, man. But then then we got like, what was it, Wild Force after that? Which, it was alright. And really, they kind of went on a high, they kind of went off Fox after, I think, Wild Force. It was like, they started on Fox, but then they transitioned over to the Disney Channel, which was Gen X, which is now Disney XD. But, you know, they had some good seasons in the Disney era. They had, you know, Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, which was a really good season. And one of the best villains in Power Rangers, I gotta say, is Mesogog. He was just an awesome villain. SPD was good. I didn't care for Mystic Force at first, but then when I went and rewatched it, I think a couple years ago, I was like, man, Mystic Force is pretty good. So yeah, Mystic Force pretty good, but then they gave us Operation Overdrive and Jungle Fury. I'm like, oh god. Now they did follow those up with RPM, which was pretty good, but that was playing on I think ABC or CBS at freaking 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, dude, nobody's up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch it. Now I did end up watching RPM. I caught it on Netflix one time and watched it. I thought that was pretty good. Then we got Samurai, which I didn't think Samurai was that bad. And then like all the ones after Samurai though was just sucked. I mean, Samurai I think was the last decent Power Ranger show. I know a lot of people hate Samurai, but I thought it was decent. It was decent enough for me to keep watching. The rest of the ones after that, boy, especially Megaforce, every time I think about Megaforce, it's like, golly, that fucking cartoon sucks. Sucks so bad. Like, terrible. And then they followed up with a bunch of crappy ones until the last 3 seasons of the show. But I think Lord Zed pretty much saved those frickin' shows. One for Lord Zed, I wouldn't have been watching the last few episodes of frickin' Power Rangers, or the last few seasons of frickin' Power Rangers. But yeah, Lord Zed saved those last 3 seasons, in my opinion. I know a lot of people think that them shows were good, but I don't know. Alright, now let's talk about, of course, the best Spider-Man cartoon ever. And that is Spider-Man the Animated Series. Man, do I love that cartoon. I could watch everything except for the Morbius episodes just over and over and over again. I cannot stand the Morbius episodes. There's way too many of them. If they would have just cut out all the Morbius episodes except for the one with Blade, I would have been fine with that. But golly, every single freaking Morbius episode's like, another Morbius episode? Come on. They spent more time building up Morbius And they spent building up villains like frickin' Green Goblin or Hobgoblin or Venom or Carnage or frickin' Doc Ock. I guess Doc Ock was only a few. Now they did give us a lot of Kingpin in that show too. And that's probably a reason why I'm a big Kingpin fan. But boy, all the frickin' Morbius episodes, give me a headache. That's why I didn't want to see the frickin' Morbius movie. You know, even with the frickin' Electro stuff, we only get like a 5-parter with Electro and then that's it. Sandman didn't even show up in the frickin' cartoon. Like, you know, Scorpion and them didn't get much, you know, hype. Because they spent so much time on the frickin' stupid Morbius story. I'm like, like, it was like a drag to get through all those episodes. I mean, seriously, even when I rewatched the cartoon and I watched all the Morbius episodes, because I was probably going to talk about Spider-Man for this block, like, man. All the frickin' Morbius episodes are like, when would I stop? About to break into my Christian Bale Batman voice. When would I stop? Fuck Morbius. But yeah, too much frickin' time. And I did have Spider-Man Unlimited after that, which I'm surprised that didn't do well. That frickin' got canceled after one season, so. Kinda sucks, because they left that on a cliffhanger, like. Yeah. I left that one on a cliffhanger. Now, originally that show was supposed to be Spider-Man 2099. But they went with Spider-Man Unlimited, and I've made the jokes over the years, like how much I like the Spider-Man Unlimited, even though it's based on Spider-Man 2099. But, yeah, I'm like, yeah, Spider-Man, even with the last Spider-Verse movie, which, you know, came out forever ago, and it's going to be forever when we get the new one next year. But I thought Spider-Man Unlimited was good. Yes, there were some rough spots in the storytelling in that. Yes, some of the characters weren't that great. But I still enjoyed the frickin' cartoon. I mean, and I didn't like how Venom and Carnage looked in it. I was like, yeah, that sucked how they looked in it. But you know what? It is what it is. You know. What can you do? You know. The way they looked, and I don't know. I just didn't like how they looked. How the heck did Venom and Carnage even come back? That's why we need a freaking sequel show to Spider-Man the Animated Series. Like they did with X-Men 97. They need to do that with Spider-Man. Maybe they'll do it after they finish Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. But, you know, I prefer them cancel Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, even though it's not a bad cartoon, but I'd be like, yes, just bring us the sequel to the Spider-Man animated series. Just bring us that. But, you know, we also had, like, stuff like Avengers, United We Stand, which I talked about in X-Men 97. Actually, I talked about it like last year because I reviewed the cartoon. And I talked about how, you know, that kind of shows how Captain America was able to be in X-Men 97 Season 1 because he was a part of that show. A lot of people, I've seen people make theories that the frickin' Captain America in the X-Men 97 show is a Skrull. But he was in Avengers United We Stand, a cartoon that tried to make Hawkeye cool, which didn't, but no. Anyway, besides the point. So yeah, I think that's how Captain America was in the current timeline with X-Men the Animated Series. Or X-Men 97, not the animated series. Although, we did see an episode, but it was a flashback when Wolverine teamed up with Captain America. But that was a flashback. But 97, he's like in the current time, so, yeah. He got free. They probably could have answered that with the Spider-Man sequel show, because that's mainly where the part about Captain America and frickin' Red Skull were trapped in some kind of vortex came from. So, yeah. Maybe they'll bring that back one day. Alright, so let's finish off with Fox. And then I'll talk about how, you know, at that time frame in the 80s and 90s, that was like the golden era of freaking cartoon watching. But, So after that, the Fox Kids cartoon block kind of went under, and then a couple years later they came back with 4Kids TV, and we had like the 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon. Let's not forget though, the Fox Kids block also gave us Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Next Mutation, like about 2 years after the original animated series had ended. So I don't know, but we did get like 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon, which I think is the second best Ninja Turtles cartoon. I think the three best Ninja Turtles cartoons are the freaking 87 one, the 2003 one, and then the 2012 one. Every Turtle stuff they've done since then has sucked. Like freaking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what's it called? Freaking Rise of the TMNT, that one sucks. And whatever else they've done after that has sucked. Those three cartoons were the best. And you know what we think about. We know what everybody thinks about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Next Mutation. Next Mutation was not good. But also with that cartoon block, we also got like, I think some kind of new Yu-Gi-Oh show. And then we got Sonic X. And then we got, all these other characters. But, and that didn't last long either, because that ended up going under as well. Because by that point, we had Cartoon Network, we had Boomerang, we had freaking, Nickelodeon, had Nicktoons and all that stuff. So, Disney's cartoon block really was dominating pretty much. But, you know what? Like I said, though, 80s and 90s were the golden era of cartoon watching if you were a kid. You'd wake up on those Saturday mornings excited for the newest cartoons. And you know what? And they died out because CBS stopped doing a cartoon block, ABC stopped doing a cartoon block, freaking Fox stopped doing a cartoon block, 64 stopped doing a cartoon block. Who else? Because all the regular channels just stopped doing cartoon blocks. So yeah, originally Gen X was like the predecessor to the cartoon block for ABC or CBS. But, I don't know. Yeah. It's just a shame that all these cartoon blocks just, went by the wayside and they stopped doing them, and now you gotta watch like Nicktoons and Disney XD and freaking all that these days. But yeah, the 80s and 90s was the golden era for cartoon watching. Because all the local networks had cartoons on them. So, I don't know. But we'll never see an age like that again. Just like with wrestling, it's never going to get back to where it was, even if AEW is around now. Yeah. But I don't know. Is what it is. So we did get some interaction. We got a couple of likes. Wonder if we got any new subscribers. I guess I'll sing the song. But before I do, let me know your favorite cartoon block in the comments below. Either you watch the video now or you watch it after I've done uploaded it. Let me know your favorite cartoon block that came out in the 80s and 90s, and which one was like religious watching for you. Alright, so also, like I said, prayers go out to my barber Ira. He's kind of like family to me at this point, because like I said, he's been my barber ever since I was like 16, and he's the only person I trust to cut this mop. Anyway, I guess I'll sing the song. Got some interaction, got a couple of likes. So we're going to sing the unedited version of Notorious. Alright, here we go. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Diddy's trying to baby oil me. There you go. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Diddy's trying to baby oil me. There you go. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Diddy's trying to baby oil me. That's the that's the unedited version of Notorious. There you go. Anyway, that'll do it. Please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe for more. Follow my Facebook fan page, Mr. Orange 383 Show. Follow my Facebook business page, Trigen Toys. And I will see you Friday for the wrestling live stream. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to tune into that one. And yeah. Yeah, I would have freaking went through. I just went through all the apps that have all these freaking cartoons from these cartoon blocks. But then I'd have to go from Disney to freaking HBO to freaking Tubi to freaking Paramount to freaking so on and so forth. So I'm just like, no, I'm good. But anyway, that's it. See you guys later. Biggie, biggie, biggie. Can't you see? Daddy's trying to baby oil me. Anyway, peace out.